Well, welcome back for another adventure. Today we're making a really popular dish that I used to make at the restaurant, curried cabbage. We're also making my red wine glaze, and we're going to be whipping up a pesto. So to get started, I want to get the glaze going first because that's going to take the longest. I've got a copper pan, stainless. I got that into a hot pan. Got about 3 cups here. I got about 3/4 of a bottle. I'm using a nice Montepulciano. Use a good wine for this. Don't use a box wine. Cup of apple cider vinegar and 3/4 cup of sugar. And we're going to let that boil and reduce to a nice glaze. At the old restaurant, we used to have 8 or 9 glass pours of red wine, and once a bottle had turned, we went through it pretty fast, but once in a while we would have a red that wasn't good enough to sell anymore, so we would pour it in a bucket, and it kind of happened by accident. I ran out of balsamic vinegar, and I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And I ended up reducing a bottle of wine with a little sugar and some vinegar, and I ended up doing that all the time because it was a way of using up my red wine that was starting to go bad. So instead of a balsamic vinegar, which is from a specific wine, it turns to vinegar and then they age it for 20 or 30 years and it thickens up. This is similar to that. It has the vinegar, it has the sweetness, and it has good red wine, and we're just making a nice glaze out of it. So while that's working, I'm going to get started on my curried cabbage. I've got a hot pan here and I'm putting in about 3 or 4 tablespoons of oil because I'm going to be perfuming quite a bit of spices, and I get my onions in first. I chop these onions in half and then in half again. You don't want long stringy pieces of onion. I'm going to add the garlic. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of smoked paprika. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of hot curry powder. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of turmeric powder, which helps us with the color. Half a teaspoon of crushed red pepper. And we stir this around to release those powders, and that oil will get those spices to release their. I wish you could smell this right now. It really smells great, but see how it soaked up that olive oil, and we've got what we wanted there. Now to this, we're going to add dark brown sugar. It doesn't have to be. I like to use dark brown. You can use light brown. You can use regular sugar, honey, whatever you'd like, but I like the dark brown sugar. You got a cup of apple cider vinegar. We get everything nice and wet. We've got 8 ounces by weight dried cranberries. I've got a half a cup of cherry preserves. Now you can use cranberry jelly. You can use any jelly that you'd like. It doesn't have to be, but I like the pectin in the fruit. Kind of helps me with my viscosity, and it adds another chew of sweetness to this. I'm going to add my tablespoon of salt, kosher. I always use kosher salt. And then we're going to add the rest of our cabbage. And we keep this on high because what's going to happen now is that red cabbage is going to release its water. And I've got this glass cover on it to keep an eye on it. We've got our balsamic glaze going really well. So while I've got that going, I'm going to start on my pesto. You know, last week we did 9 Alfredos in about 33 minutes, which is about, you know, we did 18 plates of food. So it's about 1 dinner every 2 minutes. So it was kind of like restaurant cooking last week. And I was rushing a little bit, and I have to let the cat out of the bag. Last week when I was pounding my chicken, my Japanese knife was bouncing up and down on the cutting board, and it fell off the table. And I stuck my foot out to stop it from breaking off the tip and, you know, knock it off balance. Well, the knife went through the shoe, went through the front part of my foot, and I felt it. But we went on with the show. I felt my foot sloshing around a little bit. So when we were done, I went and took a look. It looked like I was going to need stitches. I bandaged it up. Zach and I cleaned up the kitchen another 35, 40 minutes, and then I went to the ER and got 7 stitches. So if I seemed a little bit off last week, it's because I was concerned about my foot. So, you know, all the jokes are going around, you know, it will cut. And, hey, Blackbeard, or, you know, where's your cane? And, you know, my daughter walks around with a dough hook now. And it's like, really? So, anyways, that's a little bit behind. I mean, I don't even think Zach saw me do it because he was wondering what I was doing, sitting over by the bench, taking my sock off full of blood. He's like, what happened? I go, well, I dropped the knife in the first 7 minutes of the shoot, so I didn't want to cancel on my first live feed because I cut myself. You know, it was kind of ironic. Someone sent a comment saying, oh, Chef Greg, you cut so perfectly and your dices look great. And I'm laughing because, yeah, and, you know, I cut my foot. And by the way, that's the first time I've ever cut my foot cooking. Usually it's my hands, or I burn my arms. So, anyways, a little inside dig for you. You can see our red wine is boiling nice. Our cabbage is simmering nicely. So over here for the pesto, I've got 3 ounces of fresh basil. I got a 1/2 cup of pine nuts. I got 2 cloves of garlic, and we chopped this today. My daughter chopped a bunch of garlic a couple hours ago while we were working, and the point is I want you to put in the garlic a little bit chopped up before you start this, so you don't have to try and chop up those big cloves. Here I got a teaspoon of black pepper. We fresh ground that today. A teaspoon of kosher salt, 2 ounces of lemon juice, and 1 cup of olive oil. And, you know, to me, pesto means a vegetable sauce, a vegetable puree. So, I mean, you can make pesto with anything. You can make pesto with chervil, cilantro. The reason why I like to do it with the hand wand is because it seems to get stuck in the blender. Once you break down this basil, you'll get a nice puree. Now, if you did an Italian parsley pesto and you replace the salt with an anchovy, that would go great over a piece of broiled cod, walleye pike. Now, originally, pesto, the Italian version, it's made in a mortar and pestle. And you do each ingredient one at a time, and you grind it by hand. Now we've got these fancy tools. Wine's looking good. I can see the cabbage is simmering nicely. I got 2 speeds on this blender. I got it on the 2nd speed. And you don't really want to mix this too long because you don't want it to start getting warm. Once it starts to get warm, then you start turning the green into yellow. We got a nice puree here. We never had to mess around with the blender and stick a wooden spoon in there. You can do this in a blender, you can do this in a Robocool, but you might have to add the basil slowly, add all the ingredients instead of and not the basil, and then add the basil leaves slowly in the blender if you want to blend it up that way. So there's our pesto. Zach, we got to make something with this pesto. We just can't show them how to make pesto sauce. So let's come over here. This is the Japanese knife that did the damage. Don't worry, I cleaned it and sanitized it. But I'm going to cover the name because I'm not an influencer. Japanese steel is, in my opinion, the best for kitchen knives. But don't go out and buy a knife like this unless you cut vegetables every day, because you will get hurt, trust me. So I got a beautiful ripe beefsteak heirloom tomato. I'm going to take my pesto. Perfect. Now, the Italian version puts a little bit of grated Parmigiano Reggiano in. I don't do that because I always add cheese to my pasta dishes, or I serve cheese on the side, and I really like that basil flavor to come through. What's another neat variation with this recipe is if you take the basil out and you put 3 ounces of pistachio nuts in there, then you make yourself a nut pesto. And that is just wonderful on all kinds of things. You can use this pesto, the basil, for making lasagna. I use it to marinate my Greek chicken. So many uses for pesto. Putting it on cooked vegetables, using it to flavor a soup. You know, a nice cream and potato soup with a spoon of pesto in it. Delicious. So, put the tomato on there. Maybe a couple olives, pepperoni. And instead of doing mozzarella, I'm going Greek style. I'm going to put some French feta on it. How does that look? Is that looking tasty or what? A little black pepper. A little fresh chopped dill and Italian parsley. Just a touch of olive oil over that cheese. Now, when we finish the red glaze, it looks like this once it's cooled. This is another dish that you can use the red glaze. It adds a touch of sweetness. And see how it comes out and it holds its pattern. We used to put this on our goat cheese salad. We did it on the tomato mozzarella salad. We did it on the burrata. I use it on my carpaccio. It's a great glaze for a lot of things that you want to add a little tart sweetness to. So, you know, it's not only for salads. You can use it for vegetables and all kinds of things. Okay, so you can see our glaze. We got big bubbles here. Now, how do you know if it's thick enough yet? Well, you have a refrigerated plate. And what that does, it cools this off right away. And it tells us what this thickness is going to be when it's cold. Still a little thin. Don't do that right out of there because you got like a caramel sauce going, okay? Let the plate cool this off before you taste it. It's tart, it's sweet, and I taste that red wine. And by putting it on a cold plate, see, we're close. Maybe another minute or two. All right, Zach, come over and take a peek at our cabbage. See how quick that was? I mean, we've been doing this for less than, what, 6-7 minutes, Anya? This is sweet and sour cabbage with a curry twist to it. I was looking for something as a winter vegetable at Medusa. Now you can lower this down to medium soft. Keep that cover on because we want to keep it hydrated. You see how this has changed from the bubbles? This is done. Now you want to pour this. Could you hand me a 6-pan, honey, 4-inch deep? Now when you're cooking something like caramel, you know that the handle is going to be really hot, so you want to make sure you do that. That's our red wine glaze. Took all of less than 10 minutes to make. That's what we're looking for. This is a heat proof. But that 4 cups of liquid is going to give you about a half a cup of liquid gold. Now, another thing you can do with the pesto is if you serve olive oil for dipping bread in, the way we used to do it at the restaurant was a little red pepper, a little black pepper, a little bit of cheese, some herbs, pour olive oil on it, touch of garlic, put your olive oil on your plate, and then you take your pesto. And if you want, you could use your glaze. Now that's rock star dipping oil for bread. You got garlic, you got cheese, you can add capers, you can use different herbs. You could put a touch of my hot sauce on top of it, or your hot sauce now that you're making it. But that's just easy. We made pesto, curried cabbage, red wine glaze in less than 15 minutes. Now, with this cabbage, it's looked like we're almost done. You can see where that jelly has added some nice thickness to it, if you can see here. Now sometimes when the cabbage is really watery, I'll have not a cornstarch, but a clear gel. We use clear gel commercially in our kitchens. The reason why is we find that clear gel freezes much better than cornstarch. So when we make soups and we freeze them and they thaw them out to eat, they come right back. So, but it looks like this curried cabbage doesn't need it. This was a really nice head of red cabbage. Honey, could you give us a bowl right up here? Because we're going to do a serving of this curried cabbage. Oh, give me a Medusa bowl. We would put a spoon of like that much on each plate. People come here and buy this by the pint. It's delicious. You can add orange zest to this recipe. You can make it as spicy as you want. You could add more, less spice. You can adjust the garlic. If you want a little more tartness, you can add more vinegar to it. But that's our 3 dishes for today. Red wine glaze, pesto, and curried cabbage.
Is the clear gel something that you can buy online?
Yes. delicious. Spicy, sweet, sour. There's enough salt in there just to make it not flat. I wish I had made bread today because I really want to dip into this.
Do you want a focaccia?
Sorry?
Do you want a focaccia though?
Nah, it's cold.
Okay.
So that's it for today. We're doing this every Wednesday, 6 o'clock Central Time. I really want to grab the camera and show you Zach because he's got a new hat on.
When did you start cooking in a professional kitchen?
I started cooking in a professional kitchen when I was 18. I went to chef school at 18. I went to the Culinary Institute of America, and I've been cooking professionally ever since. I've owned 4 restaurants. I love to teach. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I don't have any sponsors. I don't, I'm doing this because I want to teach and I enjoy it, and I think people really want to know how it's done in the real world in the kitchen. And this is how we do it. You buy really good ingredients, you stay focused, follow the techniques. Anybody can cook. And that's what I want to try and promote is anybody can cook. If you love to cook for your family, keep tuning in because I'm going to give my whole encyclopedia away. So we hope to see you next week. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to put her, sorry, I got one more question.
Do you have a favorite dead sauce?
He's Gone. He's Gone is probably on the top of my list. I loved the 80s through the early 90s. That was my favorite decade, when Brett Midland was with the band. And I really appreciate your support. There's a lot of you out there. I never expected to see this happen, but I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I would like to continue to do it. So as long as you keep watching, I'll keep giving you recipes and techniques. We got Greek Easter coming up in a couple of weeks. It's the same time as American Easter, so I'm trying to talk Zach into coming over and showing how I do my lamb roast. And we do a big deal for Greek Easter. So that's, to a Greek, that's the most important holiday. So anyways, we'll see you next Wednesday, 6 o'clock Central. Be there. Zach, that's a wrap.